The Mississippi River flood of 2011 is among the largest and most damaging floods in U.S. history. But why did it flood after almost 100 years of calmness? In 2011, two major storm systems deposited a record amount of water in the watershed that feeds the Mississippi. When combined with the snow melt in early spring, it was only a matter of time for the river to flood. And in April 2011, the river began to swell. A flood like this hadn't happened on the Mississippi since the Great Mississippi Flood of 1927, which happened 84 years ago. Of the 10 states the Mississippi runs through, it flooded 7 of them. 119 counties in the lower Mississippi states of Arkansas, Illinois, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, and Tennessee were hit by the flood. The river used to get a major flooding around every 20 years, but recently it has been happening more often. The Mississippi River has had 4 major flood stages in the past 11 years, averaging a flood about every 3 years. The chief engineer of the Mississippi Levee Board in Greenville says that this is due to the increased precipitation in the Mississippi watershed. With climate change bringing heavier rains more often, this problem will only get worse and happen more frequently. The Mississippi River flood of 2011 caused $2.8 billion in damage and tested all the levees, reservoirs, and floodways, exposing their vulnerabilities. More than 21,000 homes and businesses and 1.2 million acres of farmland were affected, and more than 43,000 people were affected as well by the flood. The people affected were ordered to evacuate for their own safety, but some chose to disregard that order and stay in their homes. Acres of farmland was flooded, destroying crops and leaving sediment everywhere. The main grain shipping port was closed due to the flood for several days until it reopened on a very limited scale. Major shipments of coal meant to be shipped from the Mississippi were also delayed. The flood also carried many chemicals in it due to flooding farmland and added to the extensive dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. After the flood of 2011, the Mississippi River and Tributaries Project sought to further protect people living along the Mississippi. The project uses a variety of engineering techniques in order to keep the people safe. The project has built an extensive levee system, floodways in backwater areas, channel improvements and stabilization features, and a tributary basin improvement. There are also a bunch of reservoirs not built by the Mississippi River and Tributaries Project that help with flooding as well.